Welcome to another episode of the Rebel Tribe podcast. Today's conversation is for anyone who feels stuck, not because they lack motivation, but because they've been carrying way too much for far too long. My guest today is Jennifer Dorian Shepherd, and if there's one word that defines her work and her story, it's resilience. You may remember her from last year's Revolution Summit, where she spoke on this topic. She teaches resilience and not the glossy, let's just think positive kind, but the real kind, the kind you build when life doesn't go according to plans, when you've had to adapt and recalibrate and keep moving even when clarity feels far away. So if you've been feeling stalled or uncertain or frustrated with where you are right now, this conversation is for you. Jennifer, I'm so glad you're here. You were such a hit at the summit. I'm glad you decided to come back and talk to podcast folks.
Well, I am absolutely thrilled to be invited. All of the women at the summit last year had such powerful and amazing messages. And I was so grateful that you put the summit together and invited me to be a part of it. And I'm thrilled to be back.
So, for anyone who didn't meet you at the summit or hasn't met you yet, how do you usually describe what you do? I mean, beyond the titles, what do you do?
So what I do, I've been in corporate for over 40 years, but I have always had just a deep caring for women and the struggles that professional women from all walks of life, as well as women who are the CEOs of their homes, and the things that we face and the things that we come up against. And so women's organizations have always been part of the fiber of my being. I've led commercial real estate women, professional women's resource, and been involved in women's chambers of commerce. And I just think we bring a unique perspective and have a unique life experience. And I just try to come alongside women, especially when they're feeling stuck or discouraged, and just encourage people, take that one more step. It may be a slow step, it may be a small step, but keep moving forward, and that you have that unique reason to be in the world and the gifts that you're bringing to the world. And it's important for you to keep going.
So, when people hear the word resilience, what do you think they usually get wrong about it?
I think that they usually think it has to mean ignoring the feelings, pushing past the feelings, and just going forward at all costs. And that is not what resilience is about. It's about giving yourself that opportunity to have those feelings, know that your experience is authentic and real, and then figure out how to move forward moment by moment and step by step.
So, this episode is going to be part of my Getting Unstuck Next Steps series. In your experience, what does being stuck actually look like in real life? I don't want the Instagram version because we see all the
Right.
reels and everything that I was stuck and now what does stuck really look like?
So I can share a very real experience from my corporate career that is only months old, that I didn't have in my wheelhouse when I was on the summit last year. And that is, after approaching a 30-year anniversary in my daytime position, where I had been basically in the same position for 25 years, I was starting to question whether I was ever going to get a new opportunity and a new challenge. And I was thinking almost at the point that I might have to change industries or leave a company that I really loved, and and abandon the path that I was on in order to experience something new. I was losing sleep over it. I was really struggling with it. And I realized that I had to be really intentional about, what do I want my life to look like? And then just see if I could work with my manager and my company to create that path for myself. And so I had breakfast with the two people that I report to, and I just shared my dream of what I felt I could bring to the table and what I could potentially see as a different path that nobody in our entire company was walking. And after some back and forth, I was granted that path and taking on an expanded role in my company. And it's kind of an invent it as I go along, following the blueprint that I was supposed to, generate. And but nobody's ever done this before. And it has re-energized me. It has given me that new lease and where I can see myself continuing to grow and change and everything on this path for the next 10 years at least. And if I had just accepted that this is all there is, and you kind of get that feeling, is this all there is? I didn't ask for much. It just taught me again that if you can really, really focus on what you want, and if you're willing to work for it, that you can make steps to create that.
You said a couple things in that that really made me, I don't know, you said that you were just getting so to the point that you were losing sleep over it. And then you went and you took the steps. But I'm thinking many women would have been afraid to take those steps for fear they would have been told, well, we just don't have, we don't have a role for you here like that. So maybe it's best if you leave. Is there a difference, do you think, between being stuck because you're afraid and being stuck because you're just exhausted?
I do, and I have had that also, just where you have so much going on that you don't know what end is up. And I see that in people who are juggling their career and their kids and their volunteer obligations and just getting, having life happen in that time. And I think at that point, you have to remember there are people out there that are willing to help you. And it can be the scariest thing in the world or make you feel so inadequate that you can't do it all. But one of my favorite mantras is you can do anything, but you shouldn't do everything. And you don't have to be perfect at any of it. Good enough really is good enough a lot of the time. And so if you've gotten that into that spot where you're just feeling overwhelmed by life, really just sit with yourself, make some lists, do some writing, talk with the people closest to you, and figure out how to move forward. I did this amazing visual exercise with a coach who mostly focuses on writers, but she asked me to picture, that all my problems and everything were a rope and it was tied around me. And how was I going to get out of that? And for me, in that visualization, I realized it was easy as slipping out of it, that I was the one that had tightened those ropes and put them around myself. But that picture might be different for everyone. But if you can picture yourself freeing yourself from those knots and that rope and that weight, even if it's one small thing, I do think that there is a path forward for everyone.
Listening to you kind of brought back memories of my past, active duty single mom trying to juggle 12, 13-hour shifts, rotating shifts, taking care of the kids, volunteering, Girl Scout, softball, whatever they wanted. I was just tired. What's one sign that you think people miss? Because I'm sure from my own experience, I'm sure I missed a few. What's a sign that you think we miss that tells them, we're not lazy and we're not unmotivated. We're just overwhelmed and tired.
I think for me, one of the things that will always happen is I will wake up in the middle of the night and I will not be able to fall asleep because it's that quiet space where nothing is going on. And so my brain just goes into overdrive. And I have to pay attention to that and ask, why is that happening? And I, so for me, that's one sign. And I also think that if you keep pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself, and your body is trying to signal you, hey, I need more sleep. Hey, I need a rest. Hey, I need the mental load to lighten. And you don't listen, your body will take you out somehow. You know, you will start getting headaches, or you will just keep catching every bug that comes your way because your immune system is so exhausted. And you will slow yourself down, and your body will just make you rest. So I do try to see the smaller warning signs and drink more water and eat a vegetable. I know those are cliches, but taking care of yourself first and really paying attention to the things that nourish you mentally, physically, spiritually, and making yourself do them even when they feel like you're letting down somebody else is a key for me, even if it's just minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour of self care, but take those minutes at a time, take those breaths, and just reinforce yourself. You know, building resilience is something internal and as well as external.
You gave us a bunch of great tips there, and you gave us some even better ones at the summit during your presentation. I mean, this is your thing. You work with resilience. What what doesn't help when someone's already maxed out? Everybody's always good at giving us what we should do. What are some things we shouldn't do? Okay.
So, what doesn't help is beating yourself up or criticizing yourself or not changing anything. You know, powering through is never the answer because there is always a shift that is needed in order for you to move forward. And if you can't see the forest for the trees as it is, you really do have to talk to somebody, talk to a trusted person, or somebody at work that you care about, or just sit down with a journal and have that conversation with yourself to start peeling away the layers and things like that. Also, don't just completely shut down. It's really harder once you stop to start again. So just, go into a rest mode a little bit, recharge a battery. I keep a list of the things that make me laugh or make me smile or that I enjoy doing, and I just pick something small, bake a cookie, or do something that brings me joy that I'm doing just for me. Those things that recharge you really make a difference.
What does that look like exactly? You were talking about pushing through. What does it look like, resilience look like when you just don't have the capacity to push through anymore?
I think it is just taking a break. It looks like spending some time with all of the things that you think are the have tos or the should do's, and especially releasing the should do's. If you're just doing something because you think you should and you think you're going to be judged if you're not doing it, let that go first, and pare down to the essentials. And that is hard to say no to people sometimes, but it's essential to focus on the things that are at your core and that are aligned with your values and aligned with your priorities, and not be at the mercy of what you're worrying about that other people are expecting of you, and that you're looking, that they think they're going to judge you and things like that.
Have you seen that? I mean, have you seen? I know I'm real bad about the should do's. I admit. It's like I really need to do that. But a lot of time that's like survival mode, I think. You're just running on survival mode at that point. Have you seen people just mistake survival mode for resilience? What's the cost of that? I mean, long term, what does that cost us?
It just means that when you are a month forward, 6 months forward in your life, you're still not feeling that joy, that sense of ease, that sense of, alignment where you're living the life that you love living, and people think, oh, I can't change. Oh, I've got to go to that Sunday dinner every night. I've promised, that was one of the things that my husband actually, I would say, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. He's like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. And at first I was offended. And then I thought about it and I thought, I don't have to. So I have to decide, what do I want to do? And do that first. And so to me, that means as many opportunities as I have to go and do and participate in stuff, I only choose 2 after hours things a week at the most that I will participate in. And the other 3 nights, I'm at home doing the things that I want to do at home for me. And people are okay with that. They may say, oh, we missed you at such and such, or oh, you didn't go to so and so. But I have that peace of knowing that I'm designing my life a little bit. It can be hard, but practice makes progress. Say, do a no count, and take some joy in saying no to the things that aren't serving you and aren't feeding you and aren't really making a difference.
I love that. Practice makes progress instead of, because we're always told practice makes perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. So practice makes progress. I like that a whole lot better.
Yes. Yes. And, I read a fiction book this week, and the title really caught me. And it was Tomorrow Starts Today. And we tell ourselves, I'm just going to keep on this path for now. Tomorrow I'll start fill in the blank. And it just really struck me that tomorrow starts today. It's the things that you do in this day, in this moment, that can start making changes. Even if your today has been the same for 30 years, that every day you get a chance to do one thing differently. And I think that's a lot of what resilience is I don't have to keep living my life the way I'm living it in this moment. I can change something. And that to me, that always puts a little warm glow in my heart when I remind myself of that instead of thinking there's nothing that I can do.
How do we do that when we're sitting here thinking I know something needs to change, but I don't know what? Where do you suggest we start?
So I love to have something to look forward to. And so I think when you know something needs to change, you really need to take a little bit of time and think, what do I want my life to look like? We're all really good at knowing what we don't want. We don't want to feel like we feel right now and all of that. But to really be able to picture, what do I want? What does a great day look like to me? What does a great week look like to me? And not in a pie in the sky way, but in a way that you can really visualize yourself moving through that day and moving through that life. And then working backwards from that picture to say, okay, what is one thing I could do in this moment that is going to put me on the path to that day and that life looking like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does actually. So so what's like maybe a small next step that actually matters? Not a massive life overhaul, but just like one little small next step that actually matters.
I I love a list. I love writing. To me, words make a difference. And so I think just taking 10 minutes to sit down and visualize that life that you want and put that down on a paper and put that one thing on a post-it or on something that you can carry with you that is just an encouragement that you're going to do a little bit differently. I love a stack of post-its, and I'll leave post-its for myself all over the house. Some of them just have a heart on them. Some of them just have a "you've got this," and I feel like reminding yourself about what you want in a non-judgy way, and don't beat yourself up if you slipped back and stuff, but just doing that one little step. Just think of that one thing. Maybe it's drink an extra glass of water. Maybe it's take time to sit down for 5 minutes and just do nothing. It's not spend more time watching TV or doom scrolling, doing a little bit of a time audit on your social media and your TV watching. And I know I'm not the only person to say this. That time is not feeding you. And in fact, watching everybody else's perfect social media life can be so hard on you when you're already being hard on yourself. And so just take some analog time, when it's not 17 degrees outside like you're experiencing right now. Get out in nature when you can and just think of things that are for you. And it is really hard to think about hard things as a gift, but if you can think back on the lessons you've learned from those hard things and the strength that they've given you, the knowledge they've given you, the story they've given you that you can share to help somebody else down the road, and think of those as what got you here to move you forward, that can make a difference too.
So how do you help people rebuild trust in themselves, like after a stretch where everything just felt reactive? I've been there. I'm sure you have. How do you help people rebuild trust in themselves?
So, one of my favorite things is try to just talk differently to yourself. Instead of talking to yourself as that super judgy person, talk to yourself the way that you would encourage, like you would talk to your best friend. And so I do try to help people uncover their own best friend, and maybe and then also name that super judgy voice that is telling you the bad things, and don't let that be you. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to accidentally give a bad name to somebody who's a perfectly nice person. But I have my own inner critic voice, and when you name that voice and silence that voice and tell it something different from that best friend perspective, it can make a world of difference. So I encourage people and help people have a different conversation with yourself, and that can feel weird at first, but it's really powerful.
So if you've actually named that little inner critic, it sounds like you've had a little bit of experience with this yourself. Was
Yes,
was there like a moment in it was there a moment in your own life when resilience had to maybe be, I don't know, redefined for you maybe? I
I
know you
think
helped me see it because for me it was push through no matter. I'm retired military. It's push through no matter what. You helped me
right.
see it differently last year with your presentation at the summit. So
I think one of the most challenging periods in my life was, and now it's been almost 12 years, but you still remember the times when you had to have resilience. And I had taken on the presidency of two groups that I really loved, and it just happened to mesh at that time that I ended up as the president of both. My boss asked me to help him in his campaign to be the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Man of the Year for 2014. And we were trying to raise over $100,000. And at the same time, my late teen son was really struggling with lifestyle choices and a group of friends that was just leading him down a very dark path, and just questioning my parenting and questioning absolutely everything and feeling like my world was falling apart and I was bad at everything. And in that moment, I had to really dig deep and just know that, nobody is perfect. And I wasn't 100% responsible for any of the bad things that were happening, and that I couldn't I couldn't control everything. And I think that is the most important lesson that I learned at that time, is there are going to be things that come out you that are completely out of your control. And you can't stop those things from happening. But if you shut down and get stuck and give up, you are robbing yourself of a better future. And I just had to have that talk with myself, like, it looks really dark right now, but it's not going to look like this forever. And you just have to look for those things that can help you move forward. And so I asked the people around me to take on a little bit of that load. So I had some breathing room, and I did not do any other fundraising for the rest of the year. I just, I adjusted. And looking back a year later, I still have those memories, but I was moving my life in a different direction. And I'm careful not to get to that point again. It takes maintenance. It's not a one and done thing like, oh, I bounced back and now I'm good forever. It is a practice. And sometimes in practice, you get things wrong. But as long as you keep practicing, things will get better.
And I heard a lot in that experience. We're the moms, we're the spouses, we're the keepers of CEOs of the house, basically. Plus, a lot of us have jobs where we're important. We hold a lot of it together. If someone listening feels like they've been just holding everything together for everyone else, what do you want them to hear right now?
I want them to hear that they can let some of that go. And that doesn't mean that they're incapable. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that they're a disappointment. It just means that they're a human being who needs a reset and needs to figure out what a better life might look like. And that by fueling themselves for that life, they're actually going to be able to give and live in a way that is going to create a more positive impact for them and the people that they love and that love them.
So, what's a question that they can ask themselves this week that maybe might kind of loosen up what's stuck?
I go back to that. Ask yourself, what am I just doing because I think that I should be doing this? And how can I shift that? I think that's a really powerful question, because you just have to make some choices, and those choices can be hard, but start with the things that you're only doing because somebody else has told you that's what you need to be doing, and figure out a way to let some of those go.
So, most of my audience is over 40, women over 40. And we have spent most of our lives, okay, most of our lives doing what we thought we should do. If if that's not it, if resilience isn't about doing more, What is it about it at our stage of life? What's it about?
For me, it was just having multiple conversations, filling lots of notebooks and listening to people like you and other encouraging, inspiring podcasts and TED Talks and things, and just really spending that time like, what is important to me? And I'm halfway through my life. And so every decade really feels special and it's going to keep going faster and faster. So what do I want to do in this moment? What do I want to do in this month that makes me feel like I am living a life that I intend to live, that I'm creating, and that I'm not just in the passenger seat for? And anytime somebody tries to put me in the passenger seat and give me homework and give me a list of things they want me to do, I just have to take a break and say, is this going to get me where I want to drive? Is this going to get me to the destination that I see for myself? And make some hard choices, or sometimes make some easy choices. No does get easier the more that you say it and the more that you know that it's okay to say no.
I love this. I just love how completely reframed getting unstuck. It's not fixing ourselves because there's nothing wrong with us. Okay.
There is
But
nothing wrong with you.
but it's all about just listening more honestly to where we are right now. So if this is resonating with other listeners out there, as I'm sure it will, where can they connect with you or learn more about your work?
So I do have a Substack. I have not written a lot. That is on my intentions list for this year, and you'll see more frequent postings that are going to have some of these thoughts and some of just enjoying your life better. And that is under my name, Jen Shepherd, but also under Live Lead Positive. And I am working on launching that as more of an Instagram feed for more of those little soundbite type things and some honest talks. And honestly, people are welcome to email me. If you shoot me an email at jenmshepard@gmail.com, I will answer and I will be here for you. And I hope that you can find it in yourself to take that first step. But if you can't and you have a question and I can help, please reach out on the socials as well. I'm responsive to messages both under the Jennifer Dorian Shepherd and my Jen M. Shepherd on Instagram. And I'm happy to connect.
And I will put links to her Substack in the show notes so you can check it out, and also her email so you can connect with her if you wish. Jennifer, I thank you for this conversation and your honesty. Um, what I love about what you shared today is it reminds us that getting unstuck doesn't require some kind of big dramatic overhaul or a perfect plan. What was it? Practice makes progress. So there we go. So sometimes it just starts with awareness or permission or simply deciding that staying where we are costs more than moving forward, even if it's imperfect. So if this conversation
100%.
resonated with you, ladies, take a moment and sit with what stood out. Not everything needs action right away. And when you figure out where you want to go, or if you just need a little help, reach out to Jennifer. She'll help you. She'll help you find that clarity. Jennifer, thank you again for being here and for the work you do. And to everyone listening, you're not behind. You're not broken. And follow Jennifer's example. You don't have to be stuck forever. This is
Thank you
just
so much.
this is just the next step. So we will see you all next week.